66,000, 5 years ago. A cold wind blowing through a desolate sky. Gray spray. The world is in darkness. No more dividing day and night. We're at the moment. A disaster that can destroy almost all life on Earth has just happened. A 10-kilometer diameter fireball from outer space dropped down that brought these giant lizards to their knees. The light that's left doesn't come from the sun. It comes from the flames that are burning everything. But in this deadly scene, and they're seeing amazing life again. The little creatures, under the domination of dinosaurs, is now free. They were not immediately destroyed. They will also face a battle for survival. Harsh is coming. Some of them will be evolutionarily adapted to invade the forests, steppes and plains around the world. Others take off to rule the sky, or dominate the vast ocean, where mosasaurs used to roam. And more special, one of the survivors will take the Earth into an unprecedented era. The human era today. That's right, people can't show up. If only disaster hadn't happened that day. It's intense, it's terrifying. But how do these tiny creatures, they're our ancestors, we can survive the terrible end of the world? This question will lead us to the main point of today. The Human History Series. Learn how to survive the end of the world. Before starting the main content, Trung Nguyen Thi Dance, I look forward to your support with a like and a channel subscription right now. Don't forget to ring the alarm, not to miss the videos. The most attractive. Get ready for today's journey. One more note. We'd like to talk to you about the audience. Because of the series, it's not just about humans, it's also closely related to the development of separation, distribution of other species throughout the history of life. There's a lot of theories. Scientific theory has been given, but there's no theory fully recognized by experts, as well as the public. So maybe the theory of evolution, although not completely convinced, it will still be the best choice to develop related content in the series. Let's sit down and think for a moment. You think you can find information about your ancestors? How many generations ago? Maybe you can easily get the information about those born, grandpa, grandma, through family stories or family genealogies. But definitely, you can't know anything directly about the nest, first many lives ago, at a time when feudal society was still flourishing. So what about our more distant ancestors? Many studies show that, of our ancient ancestors, lived more than 30,000 years ago, that shared this planet with another Neanderthal species. Not only that, between us and them, there's even hybrids. Before that very, very long, our ancestors were hairy creatures, moved by forkai, and always be on the lookout for tigers, sword teeth, and last row 10,000, ago. Our ancestors are breathing the same air with these giant lizards, this ferocious, but they are AI. In 2012, while watching a collection of bones, unidentified fossils stored in the museum, the scientists notice an anomaly in the statistics about a small fossil. Looks very much like a fossil of a primate. Something small, and it's amazing. They found it and successfully recovered it. Partial ankle fossil of Pogotoria species, potential candidates for ancestral positions, the earliest of the primates, including humans. But at the present time, primates include a collection of many mammals. It's not just us, but also our great ape brothers, and also the other branches. Even if there's a lot in common, the discovery of the first primate, it's also extremely difficult. The early primates in particular, or primitive mammals in general, they're all relatively small in size. Their bones, not well protected in the fossil record, Earth, and it's almost impossible to find. Before, when modern archaeological techniques emerged, it's very likely thousands of mammal fossils that have been overlooked. It's even thrown away without knowing it. For the Pogotorius fossil this time, scientists, after hours of processing, came to the conclusion that Pogotorius has very flexible both-legged eyes. Characteristics appear many. Many animals live in trees, similar to the modern apes. This is not the first time that houses. Science discovered the fossil Pogotorius. In the year 1960, we've got some small teeth. To year 1965, when the study of those teeth came out, Pogotorius is called the first primate. But some teeth, it's hard to imagine. What shape do they have? Let's look at this. Small teeth like this are highly likely. Pagator. It's about the size of a mouse. Maybe their main food source is insects. Plant. However, they live in trees. As the scientists concluded or not, it's still a big question mark. Pogotorius is older than any primate has ever been discovered. But people don't really know. How old are they? Until 2021, a study shows that Pogotorius lived in about 105 to 140,000 years after the extinction of the dinosaurs. While we don't have any evidence, what direct fossils show Pogotorius evolved, it's very likely they also live at the end of the White Age, in a thick forest with these huge carnivorous dinosaurs. To walk under the ground, it's about finding opportunities in the trees. It's very reasonable. Maybe it's in a forest somewhere in 6 places in North America. The story of people began to be told by Pogotorius. But of course, let the beginning happen. There must be something that ends. The centipede is moving on a branch of a tall tree without knowing that it's being watched by Pogotorius. Predators are waiting for an opportunity to attack. With most other animals, animal burning blanket, almost invisible by the same color, with dark branches of wood. But Pegasus, there was no difficulty in locating it. Prey with the evil eyes. Yes. In the meantime, a flock of long-necked dinosaurs across the forest. With his big body, they've wiped out some of the vegetation in this area. Now they have to continue an endless journey in search of food. Can meet Kia's huge body. The heavy footsteps of the dinosaurs make the ground shake. But Pegasus is not afraid. He knew the dinosaurs wouldn't hurt him, as long as it stays out of the way they're moving. After obtaining prey with abundant nutrition, Pogotorius, allow yourself to rest. He looked up at the sky, and that's when this happened. A strange bright light, and it's getting bigger and falling down. That's beautiful. It's so full of beauty. So are the dinosaurs below. They didn't realize that. The danger is approaching until it's too late. An asteroid with a size of 12 kilometers through the atmosphere, burning like the second sun in the sky. Just a little longer. When it hits the surface of the planet, all will return to dust. The final result. We have the extinction of the dinosaurs, end of the Cretaceous, and ushered in a whole new era. White chalk period, to witness the explosion of life at scale. It's amazing. The diversity is facilitated by warm temperatures, abundant oxygen source and favorable climate. The thick forests that stretch almost everywhere on Earth. Not only that, prehistoric creatures also exist, especially large size compared to today. In a study published in 2021, in the Cretaceous Era magazine, the authors said they believe that long-necked dinosaurs, it's probably one of the biggest creatures ever found on Earth, when possible up to be a 7.1 meters high. But why are they so big? It's the first theory that scientists have come up with. It's the environmental factor, such as higher oxygen content in the air, that can contribute to the enormous size. In dinosaurs, according to that, in the period before the era began, atmospheric oxygen concentration has increased by 15.9% compared to the previous period. That's much lower than today's 21%. The same time period, the first dinosaurs to appear in the heat, North American zone. It's evolved to get bigger and bigger. This helps them reach into air with higher oxygen content, while avoiding low-volume areas. Too dense. It didn't stop there. The existence of Titanosauropatogodon. It's also called the long-necked dinosaur. Which brings us to the second theory of why they've grown to such enormous size. The answer is to get absorption and access to efficient food sources, inspired by the giraffe. The scientists think that the titanosaurs have such long necks, help them gain a significant advantage. Then the animals eat other large grass, more specifically than they can be, to cover larger areas of food, and comfortable to enjoy, food that other dinosaurs had. It's inaccessible. They also have a digestive system, allowed to consume huge amounts of food in a short time. Scientists think that titanosaur, you need to eat so much that you can't be choosy, and its giant gut, it's able to digest even the toughest plants. They're estimated to spend 22 hours a day to consume 129 kilograms of plants. Types of the large size is an advantage, help the dinosaurs and other prehistoric organisms survive easier in prehistoric times. But before the fateful moment, that's the weakness of the mind. After the events of the Cretaceous, no animals survive on land. Weighing more than 25 kilograms still exist and grow to. Today, the Great Extinction. It wiped out more than 75% of the world's organisms. At that time, geological history of the Earth have seen countless times of terrible VA touch. And they're still there. It can't be erased until today. Fred Ford crater in Nafi is 160 kilometers wide. It was probably created about 2 billion years ago. According to NASA's Earth Observatory, it's been largely eroded, but based on what's left, scientists estimate that the author of this is AVA asteroid. Diameter 10,105 kilometers. Further afield in the Strawberry region of Ontario, Canada. There's also a trace of giants like Brady Ford. 2-year study, not 14 in the journal. Tronova said that maybe it's not an asteroid. It's a giant broom star, or a mixture of rocks between pieces of the asteroid. And the ice has VA touched the Earth. Space objects from nearly 10 kilometers in diameter. It hit the Earth about 1.8 billion years ago. But what we're really interested in here is, it's why the world has such a terrible impact. That small creatures, including Pegatorius, our ancestors could have survived. The idea of a mass extinction event in the last century. White chalk has been recognized by scientists. Over 100 years ago, 1800 to 5 French naturalist Yash Creer. I've noticed a significant change in fossil biodiversity between the early and late centuries. White part, fossils from large animals, has been gradually replaced by fossils from smaller species, like birds or mammals. It's clear that there's something relatively serious about it. It happened, but there is no evidence which supports that assumption. All explanations are rejected. The controversy, it goes on until an important discovery plays a decisive role in the history of the planet. By to geologists in Mexico disease. Late years are ripe 70 to geologists. Glenn Penfield and Antonio Camargo is conducting aerial survey to assess oil and gas exploration in Mexico. They're tasked with finding possible sites for oil drilling rig construction. And then here, they discovered a giant crater buried beneath the waters of the Gulf of Mexico. The two scientists shared their findings, their break with Petróleos Mexicanos, but the oil company banned them from disclosing the 10 collected data. The existence of the crater, it's kept secret without anyone knowing. But only a few years later, another group of scientists start reporting on the concentration, iridium unusually high in stone, from the end of the White Age. They named it the KPG World Name. This group is led by Luis Alvarez. He won the Nobel Prize for Water. Alvarez. They've surveyed in many different locations, including Italy, Denmark, and New Zealand. They all produce a result. 66.000. 5 years ago, the Earth suddenly appears very unusual. It's a very rare chemical element, iridium. Iridium is very hard, but also very brittle. Similar to platinum, it appears in extremely small quantities in the crust. Earth, especially on the surface, is even less. Where there's a lot of iridium, the most we know exactly, are asteroids in outer space. This led the team to speculate that abnormally high levels of iridium at the KPG boundary. It could come from outer space. The scientists are excited. 98 years ago, in a report they said the impact, the size of an asteroid. It may have caused this phenomenon. It's called the Alvarez hypothesis. But it's hard to understand when you don't get an answer back. Not until 1990. It's only now that we can analyze the rock samples more accurately. And they finally know the location of the VA impact. The Alvarez hypothesis is reinforced and confirmed as a leading cause. That led to the White Age extinction event, the crater that Glenn Penfield discovered. It's called Lake Gishlap, based on the name of a city near this area. But our Earth, up to more than 12,000 kilometers in diameter, it's a small asteroid. It's not enough to kill almost all the animals, including creatures on the other side of the globe like that. There must be something behind that. Lake Chicxulub is about 180 kilometers in diameter, with the size of the crater, so scientists can calculate the energy, same volume, and the size of the object. It touched the Earth years ago. The asteroid is moving at 40 times its speed, sound, to create an explosion with a force equivalent to 100,000 billion tons of TNT explosives. Unleash the power. That's about 7 billion times the mass of an atomic ball. It creates a massive shock wave, pulled by the violent tsunami, hit hard on the coast of Mexico. Next, a magnitude 10 earthquake that shakes the ground. And then there's the rain of rocks, pouring down from above. Even though it's terrible, the VA touched, it only causes damage to the surrounding area. And then it's the culprit who killed the dinosaurs. The VA caused a large amount of dust to be thrown up. This amount of rock soars up into the atmosphere, condensed into giant black cloud rocks. This cloudland is widespread throughout the atmosphere, rapidly covering the surface of the Earth. And then combined with gravity on Earth, the dust clouds fall again in the form of torrential rain, trillions of dust particles plummeting down, strong friction with the atmosphere. It creates a terribly hot atmosphere. That heat has made the trees and the forests. Many places are burning. The Earth is now like a giant oven. Everything on the planet is roasted. These are huge animals. He is the poorest victim. They have to suffer. A hot wind threw every grain of flesh. Tsunamis crashed against the shore and swept everything away. Or earthquakes, creating these horrible avalanches. Not only that, the heat storm wiped out all sources of food and caused acid rain, polluting drinking water sources. After the storm was over, the Earth was covered in dust. The thick layers of dust that blocked the sunlight. And as a result, many of the trees were destroyed, because it can't photosynthesize. But then our ancestors survived. But how? 600 years ago, the last hungry eagle. The rat breathed weakly and became extinct. Its prey. This giant flightless moa bird. It's been extinct before. Eagles aren't extinct because of competition or because of climate change. It's because its food source is gone. Since the reptile era ended, these mammals have come to dominate the world. But that's never happened in New Zealand. Before the land mammals appeared, the only mammal on the islands of New Zealand, some species fall, and of course the eagle sings, become the ultimate predator, at the top of the food chain in this place. But the emergence of another species of mammal, that changed everything. Human settlement on the islands of New Zealand, around the 14th century, and with sophisticated weapons VI, extremely effective group hunting tactics. The singing eagle doesn't have any competition. Within 200 years, the outsiders are hunting. Most large birds can't fly. The eagle's main food source. From the story of the eagle hash, it's easy to see similar properties on a scale. The whole animal kingdom, It shows the danger of being dependent on a single food source. Eagles sing not only to moa birds, they have a much more complicated relationship than that. Even the size of an eagle also grows in parallel with moa. Without the moa bird, eagles simply can't survive. So while the great predators and just hunts a prey like an eagle, can succeed in a short time, then animals have the ability to adapt, to exploit many food resources, to have a long life. This is especially accurate when we go back to looking at extinction events. White fan period. Pagatorius, whether he was a predator or not. They also lived in warmth, and the advantages of the late white fan period. Despite the food competition, the opportunity to mate has never been easy. But compared to what happened after the VA hit the cottage, the planet doesn't actually penetrate. The night after the accident, our ancestors suddenly fell into a world. The darkness is so cold, where many of these species used to share their living space suddenly disappeared after just one night. The lush ecosystem of the Cretaceous, it's become hell with animals. But by exploiting every resource possible, not just food, our ancestors have miraculously adapted. Any animal that survived the extinction, when white powder, are all capable of practicing survival strategies, extremely smart, like digging holes, swimming or nesting. Small size is the advantage when you need to adjust your behavior to find different sources of food. For example, insects or other small animals. Most importantly, new food is available. That ability allows Purgatorius in particular, and small animals in general, hiding from the worst effects of the VA touch. Pagatorius lives on a tree. I'm used to eating insects. But there's one more problem that needs to be solved. In the period after the VA hit, the vegetation has also been destroyed a lot. No more big old trees, or the familiar dense rainforest. How our ancestors were able to adapt. Everything shows that the richness of plants will not be able to recover quickly. Ecosystems take at least 5,000 years to go into stability as originally. Pagatorius needs to do something to overcome this harsh situation, and they did. The fossil record shows that the first plants to regenerate after the disaster is the fern as we're seeing it. But in the 10 years after the VA hit, the world has seen a tremendous growth of mushrooms. Because fungi don't get their energy from photosynthesis, so they're not affected by the decline. Serious from sunlight. The competition from plants is over. A world filled with the fungi that make up this spectacle. Completely foreign. It will provide an important source of nutrition for the animals trying to survive. Where the post-apocalyptic Earth, and finally even if the nest, our ancestors have adapted to the way we live in trees to survive. They also have to be flexible enough in their behavior to venture to the ground when necessary. Perhaps Purgatorius has changed behavior for modern squirrels. I like to spend time on trees, but sometimes they go to the ground looking for food. Not only that, our ancestors, they were also able to escape the forest fire in the first weeks after the VA hit by finding refuge underground or in natural stone caves. Living in a tree for many years, they're also capable of building impressive nests. These nests will bring warmth. It's safe when the temperature drops out, developing the ability to swim as many species. The modern primate, allowing them to exploit aquatic species. Added to food sources, there's actually a lot of evidence to suggest that freshwater ecosystem not seriously affected by the asteroid impact as saltwater or on land. It doesn't matter what survival strategy is used. We know that it's really worked. We're even here today, in an unprecedented position, despite the KPG extinction event. It's not an extinction event, the greatest of all time, but it's a pivotal event for the balance of life on Earth. There's a theory here that says, if the asteroid Keir hadn't crashed into the Earth, is it the age of giant reptiles? It will never end. If there's no mass extinction at the end of the period, white chalk whether humans can evolve. To make it easy to imagine, evolution is a process of steady progress. It didn't change throughout the White Age. Sometimes evolution can explode. For the first few million years after the extinction event, the animals have breasts evolve into more different forms, compared to 160.0005 before. Due to the sudden absence of dinosaurs, mammals grow in size and shape. It's so rich it's never been seen before. Taking advantage of empty ecological spaces, appeared in a world completely reworked. A whole range of new forms of mammals have emerged. Paramys armadillo, ancient rodent. Otis and Oya, the oldest branches. It's known from the mammalian branch that evolved into today's sea cows and elephants. The Rocky Mountains are forming angalagons, wolves stalking the forests of North America. One of them growing to the size of a bear. And so the whole era passed. Larger species of mammals establish his place on the new golden lord. But what about us? 12.0005 after VA touch. The creatures of the newly developed primate branch. Strongly their later descendants are identified. They will be the ones who take over the world. Lived at the beginning of the new age 55 million 5 years ago. VA impact of the asteroid. It almost wiped out all life. It's just the past. Now there's only the crater, hundreds of kilometers across the Gulf of Mexico, and the Rhine forests that reach out beyond the equator. Much more than today. Fossils of tropical plant species has been found further north, Greenland and Alaska. The planet becomes the perfect place for the primates. Growing, they've taken up most of the space and can be seen floating in the middle. Tree branches in the forests of North America, Africa, Europe, and Asia. Primates share a tropical paradise with the number of other suckling plants. Primates of this period in general is own small size, while they're definitely a group of grass-fed animals, successful and is rapidly morphing. It's been a while. The new Earth becomes the home of the greater Kai, like today's apes and baboons. 34,000.005 before the next era. Since the new age has passed, the mammalian species have grown larger. It is more scary, but they also face the toughest challenges ever since their ancestors struggled to survive in the post-apocalyptic conditions of early antiquity. The Ice Age suddenly happened to get everyone back into the fight for survival. But the winds survived the end of the world. Most species have been able to adapt quickly. Lasted between 34 million to 23 million 5 years ago. It's a time of transition, with ancient climate and environmental conditions, characteristics of earlier eras, replaced by the same conditions, with the conditions we're used to, of today. In this world, what stands out more? Its intelligence, gradually outperforming our primates. 17.000, 5 years ago. A group of curious primates sitting on the ground, picking up the fruits and seeds that fall in the fallen leaves. Like primates before them, they're species that live in trees, but their four-legged movement, easy to walk under the ground. They're much larger than Purgatorius. Their ancestors are with us, some special individuals in Kai. It's about the size of a monkey. Stroke. As soon as we realize that predators are approaching, one in the group sounds a warning. Individuals that are below ground quickly back to the tree. It's very similar to their ancestors in earlier times. They're smarter and own the brain. It's much larger than other animals of the same size. Maybe right now. New primates and growth trends. Superior brain development is actually beginning. We are all prepared for our arrival. Another 10,000.005 passed. The world is watching. The appearance of ancient hyenas and scabies, symbolic species for the times. But in many other ways, this time must be an era of the apes. The soil strain that evolves to the body and brain allowed many of them can deal with many different problems. These include more complex environmental and ecological issues. And then a completely different species of ape appeared in just 7 million short years. With a blink of an eye in Earth's history, their descendants will build cities, creative out language arts, and set up complex belief systems. They're everywhere in the world. Build skyscrapers and build supercomputers. Conquer the sky. It's all amazing. But obviously nothing's going to happen without that fateful day, the day the Cretaceous ended, that our little ancestors miraculously survived. The asteroid that year ended up losing a lot of life, but for humans it's just the beginning. The diagnosis seems to have been arranged. The throne changed hands as soon as the dinosaur lay down. But to get to today, humans have been through a lot of challenges. Row Transparency 10.000005. But have you ever wondered, are we completely different today or not? Have we become a species superior to other primates? Although it's hard to believe, but I'm going to have to say, human beings are actually still partly apes. We're going to continue with that weird topic in the next episode of this series. And now is tomorrow. Life Vietnamese. Hi, and see you in the next video. Have a nice day with your family. War finally exploded after a series of tense developments. Increased continuously for weeks. Like every other war, it started with a few minor casualties, and it lasted until 4 years later. And it's become a mass slaughter. But this is not a war. As we often know, it's not made by humans, it's made by chimpanzees. More precisely, chimpanzees. In Tanzania's Gombe National Park, Kasekela used to be a large chimpanzee community, living peacefully for many years. But up to 1907 BA, some individuals have separated from the community and formed another chimpanzee community. It's known as Kahama. They're planning to invade the old community, but the plot failed 7 times and ended in blood. When the Kasekela completely killed 6 individuals, domination of Kahama, and defend the territory with integrity. This event stuns scientists. Realize that our cousins are close to us. They also know how to operate war in a complex society where there's a clear hierarchy. Observing the conflict, there's been a lot of violent behavior. Cunning tricks have appeared just to achieve the ultimate goal. Chimpanzees don't act instinctively. They're aware of their own thoughts. You could say that war is calculated like that. Demonstrates superior behavioral abilities compared to what humans know about chimpanzees. With that, many other discoveries related to biological structure, evolution, or the development of the brain over time. It's asking people a question. Do we still have some kind of monkey? And there's one other very important thing to keep in mind. That's in the first episode. We have agreed that this series develops based on the theory of evolution. This world is trapped in time. Every organism since it was the simplest cell, until they grow into intelligent beings. The most complicated. They're all locked in shapes. It never changed since the dawn of creativity. This idea is unbelievable. From a young age we were taught that Earth is a dynamic planet, that every second of every minute goes by. Everything changes, even with us humans, with a full range of superior technological capabilities. You can't escape that domination. Within 1 million years, the world has seen its rise and fall of at least 7 different species, and only Homo sapiens are the ultimate winners. However, before the 19th century, the vast majority of people believe that they're living in an immutable world. Life is always sustainable. It has not been moved since its formation. But when the revolution changed, awareness, our understanding of life on Earth takes place. Everything has changed. In the tropics of Malaysia, this man is immersed in research to find the answer to the problem that the whole world hasn't even thought about. He developed a theory related to the species grow over time. It's been under environmental pressure for years. He calls that process of impact and change. It's natural selection. The great mind we're talking about. It's not Charles Darwin. It's Alfred Russel Wallace, an independent person, formed the concept of human evolution. With Darwin, it's thanks to Wallace that we know that people are always an important part in the animal world. from primitive times to the present day. In the book The Descent of Man 1800, Darwin made a point. It's even more money. He declared that humans and many other spirits didn't just evolve from the same ancestors. It's the same in many ways, from physical behavior to thinking. But whether this is accurate or not, most people in the 1870s, I've never seen a primate before, big and not human. But with people traveling around the world like Darwin, it's not that hard to recognize similarities. Perhaps the most obvious similarity is the expression, showing emotions on the face. That's right, use your face to express your emotions. It sounds simple, but not every species can do that. Primates in general, including humans of the group of organisms, you can use the face to show you how you're feeling. You just need to look at a group of primates, certain in a short time, to notice the kinds of expressions that they use every day. Happy, joy, anger, surprise, and pain all appear. Moving parts of their face reflects the high adaptability with living in complex social groups where communication is key. Human beings are nothing new to the world. It's just separate and developed from distant ancestors. In terms of science, humans are still primates, and so we're relatively similar to them. Wallace and Darwin. I've never fully answered questions before about this perception, despite many breakthroughs in knowledge of human origin, until the 20th century, when it's officially recognized by the scientific community. They've just started looking for the missing link. It's an extinct creature. It's somewhere between our ancestors and today's humans. Creatures like that, it is believed to be found in 6 European countries, with a brain bigger than a monkey's, but retain the characteristics about adapting to life in trees. In 1900, April 2nd, Raymond Dart, an Australian surgeon working at the university, I noticed that the special package came from the stone color. It's got some fossil remains inside, not clear, wrapped very carefully. Specimen belongs to Australopithecus africanus. Many scientists have come before. I have always held the view that the brain is bigger. It's the first step that makes us different. The brain would have evolved the earliest, compared to any other characteristics. However, the newly discovered fossil shows an organism with the brain is small, but has teeth similar to those of a wise man, and it's got an upright posture. Even the larynx simulations from the samples showed. Maybe this creature can talk, even with a small size. The brain also exhibits behavioral complexity, and consciousness is not inferior. So it gives high reliability to the idea. The process of cognitive evolution, it's been a long process. It's been filtering for millions of years. Many people quickly start thinking about the specimen like a chain tip, lack of support for the theory of evolution. And although we now know that belief is in the wrong place, this discovery still plays a role. It's important to explore the evolutionary journey. Our evolution is a long way off. There seems to be no end. A lot of people have always wondered how far we've come on this road. How much of our consciousness remains of the ancient African grasslands. Dawn in the rainforest. The light through the fog soon shone. The yellow feathers haven't woken up yet. When compared to most other primates, it's easy to understand that Saumuriki is considered unique. This long-tailed, belly-bellied primate have a very peaceful life, harmonious and very rarely violent. Even sex partners. The species is also shared in the community. It's hard to understand. In a state where food is always scarce, in a world where most primates, they all want to monopolize resources. The behavior of Muriki is curious. An American anthropologist who studied. We've been studying this strange creature since the 1980s and quickly realized that Muriki society, it's like human society in many ways. Here, females are equal to males. They are all considered important members of the community. Even when old and weak lose fertility, It's almost impossible to find signs of violence and competition in groups to reach sexual partners. In this sense, Moriki monkeys are even milder than humans. Their seemingly complex social lives, it shows higher cognitive ability, but their brains aren't superior compared to other apes in the same region. This once again reinforces that big brain is not the most important feature in the process of evolution. You might be surprised when the anatomical similarities, behavior among primates other than humans. Through the examples just now, it's about us and them having a common ancestor. The word is even more emphasized. However, our way and the primates, this is completely different. They're not less evolved species than we are. But as we evolve, they're always evolving. We didn't evolve from chimpanzees or gorillas. The scientists have calculated the great apes of the New World, separated from the ancestors, together with us 40 million ago. The cousins. This evolution is slowly telling us about history. Operation VI, and their true abilities are not to be underestimated. After Row 10.0005 developed, we may not be special, superior as we still think, in addition to an abnormally large brain relative to the body. However, there is an undeniable truth. The larger the animal's brain is relative to the body size, it's more likely that the animal will be smarter. Please emphasize that there are many possibilities, but not everything. Size is not the deciding factor. The complex structures inside. He plays the most important role. This truth has given homes. Scientific research is a challenging question. How does the human brain? It's become such a special organ. What drives primates to develop sets of? The brain is much more complex than the animal world. And whether our behavior and our thinking today, are they affected by this process or not? Our first primates doesn't seem to have a big brain. In fact, many researchers have compared them with species of lemurs alive today. This one belongs to one of the ancient primates, the oldest still in existence. They'll provide a lot of interesting insights about the early evolution of the brain. Primates, the brains of the smaller lemur primates, and simple compared to species, great primates, but they're still showing their superiority compared to ancient ancestral species. It shows that they're always changing. Even though all species' brains have evolved over time, but only humans can succeed. It's amazing. The difference may not come from the brain itself, as we still think, that as of 25,000.005 ago. It seems that we have been favored. Get ready for something bigger. Hidden in lush rainforests from the very a long time ago are some of the typical primates of the monkey family. They live in trees, move around as easily as the experts, perfectly adapted to life. Some of the earliest known populations. Strong growth in the rainforests, Africa in the Miocene. They've got bigger brains than any species that's ever existed about the time before that, but that's not the biggest connection between them and we are today. These species possess superior behavioral abilities compared to their ancestors, and more than that, they show many qualities. It's incredibly human. These characteristics, it seems to suggest the beginning of a journey. Extraordinary evolution is about to take place over millions of years. These first monkeys started to grow. The brain is bigger and more complex. Dependence on the main food source, it could be fruit, has served as an important motivating condition. Because the fruit is usually dispersed and available seasonally, animals have to remember and move to the specific location at different specific times. It doesn't just stop there. When the brain is more complete, that's when the climate started to change. Chain of environmental change make the lush forests less and less. Instead, they're grasslands, savanne stretches where Africa is wild. Some of the species that follow the decline in forest cover deep inside and then evolved into normal apes we know today. But there are also some types. I chose to give myself a different path. The changing environment create the premise for the evolution of a viable species. In all the forests and the yellow saw grassland environment, you look at this skull. It's only 167.7 cubic meters of gasoline, while the skull of Australopithecus, living in East Africa, 3 times that number. But earlier than Australopithecus, and more with our ancestors. The difference between chimpanzees, Sahelanthropus from 7 million years ago. It's a perfect example about the relationship between the environment and the brain. Each sovereign grassland habitat can provide a special evolutionary advantage in adapting to the changing landscape each day. It's a strange thing that the brain of Sahelanthropus has a slow whole area structure that's human-like. That property gives us the basis for reasoning that they could be bipedal animals. More specific speculation: cypress is even likely to be a species, the earliest of the branches of man. In the evolutionary tree, it's very important to stand up straight with 2 legs. Thanks to it, that the first 2 limbs of the primate are released. Comfortable control of objects with higher ingenuity set the stage for the next species. Know how to use tools. Homo sapiens took advantage of that perfectly. To keep up with the brain's thinking, Homo sapiens, it's also reaching the pinnacle of brain optimization than any other creature on Earth. With skillful hands, this heralded the birth of the planets. 6 is cognitively complex, including abstract thinking about language and problem-solving skills. When we look into the eyes of a chimpanzee, we see a mirror image of ourselves, the sound of a journey. It started millions of years ago. Despite this, the underestimation of our brothers, relatives in evolution, it's a huge mistake. More research find out more. The more you see that we're not so superior or as different as we think. Imagine you're wandering around the edge of the forest, next to the Savan Africa grasslands. A chimpanzee are crossing the branches above your head. One of its hands grip the branches of the tree on the high to hold it up. The other hand holds a sharp wind. He's a hunter. In the distance, he's got a group of associates. Companion under the deadly silence. It's not that hard to know what's going to happen. When he stabbed a fatal knife and finish off the prey, this extraordinary moment is so precise. Makes you choke. Your breathing is in a hurry. Doesn't seem to be paying attention, because in a few seconds a small blood-filled hair is pulled out. The whole scene is filled. Sounds like this. The hunter's companions immediately let out a cry of excitement and tied up. Your friends and family do the same. In their society, it was a successful hunt. It will make the whole community celebrate, because everyone has a part. The hunter gripped his prey in his hands. Other members are ready to divide. War booty. But right now, there's a war going on inside him. His instincts told him that this is private booty. He needs to protect it with everything he has. But reason now points out he has a strong relationship with individuals standing around. In the past, they also shared their spoils with you. If you do the opposite this time, they can isolate you and make sure there will be no sharing later. After a struggle, he allows each individual in the community take a piece of the booty. He's also given a special part for the most senior members of the group. Of course, the original tie is limited. There is only 1 piece of meat left for me. He protected it so much. Don't let anyone get a chance to touch it. In human society, sharing is not uncommon. But for chimpanzees, the sharing of food, especially if the food is so valuable, it's not about showing generosity or noble. It's about political calculation. Hunters learn hunting techniques from their own communities, until one day, he'll want to form a community of his own. Meat is the foundation to build a closer relationship with the individuals in the community, to seek recognition. The last example is a classic example of intelligence. Machiavelli was proposed for the first time by a Dutch researcher who specializes in psychology, primitives and ethics, Frans Delbo in 190082. This idea is obvious. Even actions that seem altruistic in elite society, they can also be motivated by reason, individuals, and the need for domination. This theory goes even further to argue that the need for greater dominance actually spurred a dramatic increase of brain size. And with a larger brain, the hands are more skillful than many other species. Not too surprised that they use both of those advantages into making and using tools. Year 207, the house. The student directly observed a situation, specifically in a group of chimpanzees, originating from Savan Zone, southeastern Senegal. With temperatures regularly reaching 40 degrees Celsius, with the dry season lasting up to 7 months per year, it's a challenging environment to survive in. But most of this open grassland, it is where the ancestors are. Our species has evolved in the past. That's why SAO is so important to the research. Tintin, they don't just live in the same environment as the nest. They're also the most skilled tool users. In the natural world, for these chimpanzees, they can use many different kinds of tools for many different purposes. They use heavy percussion tools to smash nuts, carrying a hard shell that uses sticks to get insects, use a toothpick to clean your teeth. And what makes them so special is that they're known as one of these populations. Rare non-human primates regularly search for food with tools, like the anthropomorphic example we just talked about. 2011, a group of researchers from the University of Ljubljana and Iowa State University reported that wild chimpanzees from the Fiji Peninsula, Senegalese, know how to use the tools to dig food underground. Before that, animals weren't people. I know how to use tools to harvest food underground. These are bears from Sira National Park, da Capivara, Brazil. So far, scientists have found that teen star wild know how to use tools to dig food underground. It's very important because this behavior was once considered unique. For apes, a species is given was to help humans and our ancient ancestors separate from other primates. In new research, scientists have studied how to use it and tool selection for chimpanzees in captivity to understand more about peach behavior, feed with assistive tools, how it can be developed. They're tracking a flock of 10 chimpanzees. He lives on an island belonging to the Christian Sandanawi Zoo. 8 of them were born in captivity, and before that, none of them. Carry out VI practice digging food. The team dug 5 small holes and put the whole fruit in each hole. Originally, let the holes open so the chimpanzees can get to where the fruit is and then fill each hole. Then they provide the tools to dig for food. 9 out of 10 chimpanzees know how to successfully dig fruit buried in the ground at least once. Even some of the chimpanzees not provided with tools, they also dug with the tools they find. The team also observed the chimps' reuse of specific tools, as well as choosing longer tools for digging VI food. And most surprising, the study authors also looked at the chimpanzees' sperm take turns to dig a hole and even share fruit after digging. Thanks to advances in science, we know that Tintin and dwarf chimpanzees, they're our closest evolutionary relatives, so it sounds extremely reasonable to assume that many behaviors are present in humans. It can also be found in chimpanzees, and chimpanzee dwarf pioneering research in the last half-century reveals some aspects of the species' behavior. Chimpanzees that have not been known to date, according to scientists. Thong, through a long-term field study of chimpanzee communities, the years a mature 60, we know our cousins can do more, what we've known before. In the chimpanzee community, in addition to making as well as using tools, they also have a rich and complex social life. As the most extroverted people, they form a long-term, loyal friendship, political alliances, and a close relationship with family. You won't find it hard to spot chimpanzees spend hours grooming, touch each other, and take care of the less fortunate and the less vulnerable. And more than that, they're capable of complex communication with a rich vocabulary of gestures. The sound is amazingly characteristic that we've only recently deciphered. So in conclusion, we get a picture of chimpanzees like those who know how to use superfluous tools. You can share the spoils with your fellow humans. I have a political agenda in me when performing the VI act. Do you still think whether they're inferior to humans or not, or in a different perspective? Are we still carrying something? It's like these cousins. All the amazing things. It was just a small chapter in the annals of chimpanzee society. ever since we started studying the field of different armies. But it's not just that. In the process of research, the scientists happen to discovering a special events that show strong humanity within the community of the species. It's not human at all. The fact that reflects the humanity that I'm talking about. The war lasted for 4 years between two chimpanzee communities. Gombe Chimpanzee War. From the year 1974 to the year 1978. It's a conflict by force between two chimpanzees in Gombe National Park, Gombe, Tanzania. The conflicting parties are Kasekela and Kahama. There is territory, the northern and southern parts of the park. These two chimpanzees used to live together in a colony. But in the year 1974, researchers are observing this community. Jane Goodall has noticed that there's a divide. The habitat of chimpanzees. One group in the north and the other in the south. The computer analysis of Google's records. Then it was revealed that there's been a social rift between these two chimpanzees from the beginning. 1907. The Kahama live in the south. There are 6 adult males, with 3 children and their children. And the Kasekelas are more numerous, with 12 adult females and their children, and 8 adult males. Signs of conflict. The first one happened on January 7th, a 974 year, when there are 6 on one side. Mature male sperm of Kasekela attack and kill Godi, a young male chimpanzee of Kahama, eating on the tree. This is the first time anyone has witnessed the view of the chimps, this crystal, to kill one's own kind deliberately. For the next 4 years, all 6 adult males of Kahama was killed by Kasekela males. One of the Kahama's offspring was killed. 2 are missing. And you've been beaten up by Kasekela's flying monkey. Abduction Kasekela. And then 1. Take over territory that used to be Kahama. But this booty didn't last long. When Kahama retreated, the new territory of Kasekela, we now face a war for territory from another group of chimpanzees called Kaland, threatened by overwhelming power. And the number of members of the Kaland, along with some of the sideshows along the territory. Kasekela flock, it quickly ceded much of its territory. They're new. The war broke out and Google, very surprised and unexpected. You've always watched chimpanzees before, although it's not like human expression. There's a nicer way of behaving, along with the observations in the year 1975, when a female has a higher rank in the flock, eating the flesh of a fellow infant. Bloody developments in the Group B war was exposed for the first time to the dark side. In the Planet VI of chimpanzees, she was deeply disturbed by this discovery. In her memoir she wrote, "For many years, I struggled to find a compromise with this new knowledge. Every time I wake up at night, terrible images kept coming through my mind. Satan, the name of one of the chimpanzees, hands down the sniff's chin. To drink. Blood is pouring out from a deep wound on the face. Zrudolf is inherently benign. Stand up straight. To throw a heavy rock into the dying body of the goatee. Romeo tore a goat out of Figgins' thigh. Continuous punching into the injured body. And the trembling of Goliath, one of its childhood heroes. When Goodall report back on the events of the Gombe War, many people didn't believe her reports. It's about a natural battle between the elves, Tin. At that time, the scientific model of human and animal behavior, they almost never fit together. Some scientists have accused she's an anthropomorphist. Others think that her presence and her chimpanzee farming experiments was born conflict, violence in a peaceful society of nature. However, subsequent studies using methods that are less. The card proves that society of chimpanzees in nature, there are wars for power, violent social behavior, full of two populations of chimpanzees. It helps us better understand our own nature and the evolutionary impacts that have shaped our cognitive behavior, as well as humans. After all, we are not special. What Wallace Vorderwin showed us from over a century ago. Humans used to share roots with primates 7 million years ago. We've separated ourselves from the parts of our relatives, including gorillas, chimpanzee tailed tongue, and despite the distinct evolutionary pathways, then the same brain as our ancestors, It retains many important parts of it. General characteristics of the anatomy of the mind. Cognitive behavior 6, and in the end, brutality. The danger always exists. Is it too much or not to say? Humans still have a share of the prize from their ancestors. It must be video. This will get you something. Look differently at your brothers, relatives in our nature, and also about ourselves. When will people be completely separated from the wild part to be moved? In the next video, we will. It's about another extremely important issue in the history of human development. Don't forget, pay attention to the familiar hours. And now, dear Vietnamese team, hello and see you in the next video. I wish everyone a good day. Let's imagine a future world where the ocean is like a giant boiling pool. The water is so hot and toxic. The sea creatures are struggling to adapt and survive every day. The heat, down to incredible depths. That water can't hold enough oxygen to sustain life. Elsewhere, the polar ice caps are melting rapidly. High seas swallowed up many cities. But that's just a small part of the nightmare. In the land, people are being cooked by the heat. Every heat wave that goes by, there are thousands more who can't stand it. Our own bodies. You can't handle such extreme heat stress. Climate change. 7 rainfall often causes continuous flooding. The level of destruction of the storms is getting more intense. You see, the changes in climate. It's more about temperature. Can pull a lot of terrible impacts behind. And then a lot of people started wondering, material, we can survive in a world that's slowly collapse like that or not? The truth is our planet have been through climate episodes. It's worse than the last one. As you can see, there will always be adaptations to survive. And one of the most remarkable adaptations, it comes from our ancestors. In the first episode, our ancestors miraculously survived through the end of the White Age. But to survive to this day, it's a much more difficult story. Living on a constantly changing planet, adaptation is the deciding factor. That decision factor, it'll be clearer in the next 30 minutes. Human History Episode BA. Earth's Climate Over Time. Adapt or Die. We are still in the series. It's about human history in particular, and the history of the Earth in general, developed on the basis of the theory of evolution. Main content permission to start. 1987 A strange dark blue ship. Stop in the Antarctic waters. That's what makes it so special compared to other ships. It's a 60 meters high structure above the cow. Not sad. It's a drill pipe, capable of reaching depths of more than 8,000 meters. Although initially carrying the mission of a ship, oil drilling, but now it's on a mission. Discovery faculty, learning, scientific research. It has nothing to do with the water around the area. It's in the sediment that's deep below. On board, there's a group of 25 scientists waiting for the drill down. First it's going to have to go through 300 meters of water. Then we get to the sediment. For the next 27 hours, drill pass. The geological layers are stacked on top of each other. Get samples of precious geological sludge, one of the parts of that substance that made scientists. Notice it's this strange red clay. It's in stark contrast to 2 layers of gray-brown sediment, blue adjacent, even if it's only 20 cubic meters thick. This humble red clay again prove the existence of an amazing climate period. The period we're talking about happened 56.005 ago. The 6 Antarctic regions had average temperatures, about 15 degrees Celsius. It's very different from the cold today. Many fossils from the coastal islands of Antarctica. There used to be a lot of plants here, including duone-grown kim leaf trees and plants with flowers. Not only that, along the coast of Antarctica is very busy. Temperate rainforest. The fossils, animals are clear evidence. For a lot of animals, we shared the living space together, and that includes our ancestors, the oldest primates. But how do researchers Save the big picture. About the environment, temperature, and ecosystem, just from a simple layer of sediment. How do they know the climate has changed and affect life in the past? Our earliest understanding of climate change, it comes from fossils, especially the fossils of plants. These records can be found as far back as the 1080s of a scientist in ancient China. The name is Shen Kuok. He's a famous geologist, passionate about the study of sedimentary rocks and ecological change, long before the Western scientific age. Development. At one time observing to study the landslide near the river bank, the police accidentally discovered a lot of signs. That weird spot on the other side. It turns out they're fossilized bamboo, along with other plants that are buried. It's a very strange story. How can bamboo appear in the area too? To be able to grow like this? So the judge conjectured that, at some point a long time ago, this area must have had a mild, humid climate, similar to today's bamboo forests. From there, when you find a fossil, some animal or plant, where they don't appear today, you have the evidence in your hands about the types of climate that existed in the region in the past. But the fossils are really good. It doesn't just tell you about the ecosystem in general. It also provides evidence of temperature, rainfall of the living period, so that people can estimate relatively accurately nearly all the necessary information. It's one of the best preserved fossils that we find, located in Massachusetts, Germany today. This area grows relatively dense temperate forest populations. The average annual temperature is always above freezing. It's hard to understand with such high temperatures. It can preserve fossils. The secret to this lies somewhere. The answer is a thin layer of mud under ancient lakes, similar to the red clay in the Antarctic Sea. This mud and the fossils show this place used to be very different as of 47,005 ago. Some remarkable fossils have been found. It's from primates, primal horses, and turtles. It's like the warm Antarctic coast. Our ancestors and other species, together sharing a lush living space. Pleasant, but to talk about the special, we have to mention these two fossils of grass leaves and crocodiles. They store enormous amounts of climate information, including indicators that are more important than we think. First of all, grass leaves conjure up images of a tropical paradise. They usually only find grass in areas with the lowest annual temperatures. It's about 10 degrees Celsius. Temperature level cannot be frozen, even in the winter. And for the crocodiles, they're thermopods, taking heat from the sun and its surroundings to maintain your body temperature. Crocodile eggs also need a relatively high temperature to hatch into offspring. So the area has these two types of fossils. Must have been very warm in the past. And it's clear that the environment is still amazing, with animals in general. And the primates say there are no significant challenges at all from the climate during this period. But the discovery of the average temperature in Messi used to be so warm was just part of the problem. We don't know the reason. Why is it so? At South Climate, the landscape and the biomes in this place, it's not as rich as it used to be. The climate can change, and we have no way of understanding change. How does it work? Forever until the 1800, the 2nd of April, when the French scientist Joseph Fourier published his theory. According to him, the air itself can hold heat. This discovery is based on understanding about a particular kind of energy that we now call infrared radiation. Infrared radiation is emitted from the sun or any high-temperature object. The wave of infrared radiation, beyond the human eye's ability to see the waves. This light also moves more slowly in the sky. Atmosphere. That's why the planet Sao, our bodies retain heat from the sun instead of letting it escape back into space. This means that the election itself, it's our atmosphere. It's similar to a greenhouse. The greenhouse effect keeps the planet warm. However, what does this have to do with climate change? If the atmosphere retains its temperature so well, we should always be warm for billions of years. Yes. The answer to this, it's the change in the temperature of the Earth. components of the atmosphere, will determine whether the Earth will warm up or cool down. Maybe you'll understand better. Follow the following explanation. 10 years after the Joseph Fourier theory was published, the next discovery of the greenhouse effect. It was discovered by the American scientist Unisford. The seemingly simple experiment. It's an amazing result. First, prepared a sealed glass tube and pumped different gases into the tube, CO2 and nitrogen, respectively. Next, she added a thermometer to each tube and put them in sunlight. Some time later, the temperature in the tubes begins to rise. It's not hard to recognize. CO2 is the fastest warming gas, waiting to stop there after giving the tubes stop being exposed to sunlight. CO2 is also a gas with a cooling time, the longest in the air. The results of the experiment showed that the gas to have the strongest impact on ambient temperature. As the atmosphere shrinks too, we absorb more heat, keep the heat longer, and cause the Earth to enter a period of fiery heat. Such a temperature change. It's the conditions that lead to climate change. Tunisia, he was the first of many scientists. Later, study the impact for the warming of the Earth. The future for climate science has really determined. CO2 is a heat-trapping gas, have a decisive influence in the atmosphere. Amount CO2 in the atmosphere can be used as a thermometer for a whole period. More geologic contraction means that time is warmer. Little gas contraction to mean with cold. Scientists can recreate the atmosphere in the past by using air bubbles stored in permanent ice, 9 Antarctica, and even without those air bubbles. We always have other paths. In the process of gas exchange, plants use these huge gases, also known as breathing holes. When there's a lot of contraction, plants can breathe easily, so their leaves have fewer holes and vice versa. Just look at the number of breathing holes on the fossil leaves. We can know the amount of CO2 in that period that leaf exists. In addition to a way of measuring CO2 equally effective is to look at the carbon isotope stored in fossil form in plant cells. That's right, plants breathe carbon-12, the most common form of carbon in the atmosphere. But for a period of time where the CO2 is low, they'll be less picky, and it's starting to absorb the carbon isotope 13, summed up by many different methods. 2 in the atmosphere can be calculated relatively accurately. We're capable of creating a record. Climate description, Earth through CO2. In 500.000 back here, the climate story is told from the quarterly data. This price will give us a lot of interesting things about how that the world goes through different climate periods. It could be a warm time that we call the greenhouse period, with a lot of shrinkage, and another period with less contraction. It's called the banking era. 500,000.005 years ago, the world's oceans are clean and warm, provide excellent conditions for the explosion of life, multicellular. Over time, new life changes together. Geology is slowly diminishing, 2 in the air. And then a sudden event happened. Causes the amount of contraction to drop dramatically, pushing the world into unprecedented cold, causing mass extinction events for countless organisms. It was also the first mass extinction of world history events. Happened about 440,000.005 years ago. It wiped out 85% of life on Earth, when almost all life is under the sea, and plants are just beginning to appear on land. The creatures that survived this great catastrophe, it's not just our ancestors, but also ancestors of most of the current animals. At the beginning of this event, the world is a very different place than it is today. The most noticeable difference, most of the 6 places are close together into a super 6. It's called Gondwana. Experts say that the global cooling can be started by the rise of the Appalachian Mountains in North America, from which suck a huge amount of CO2 out of the atmosphere. It's freezing the planet suddenly. Sea level drops by 10 meters in a short time, leading to organisms not being able to suspicious of new climate conditions. Then, our planet is going through many other changes, but not too significant. Up to 200,000.005 ago, the climate is starting to heat up with slow speed and smaller amplitude. This trend continues to happen until the years dinosaurs ruled the planet. Until the end of the White Age, the Earth is still much warmer than it is today. It makes tropical animals and plants. It's in places you can't imagine today. 75.000, 5 years ago. Many areas of our planet. It really has an appearance. It's very strange. A huge herbivorous creature are moving through the bushes to find food sources. The ice is melting. The day lasts a little longer and is slightly warmer. A long winter has just ended. Spring is coming on the land. What we know today is Alaska. The Pocky rhinoceros need to lay their eggs early so they can take advantage of the warmth that hatched into a baby. Even the winter temperatures of those years, not too harsh, but this is still the Arctic Circle, where the darkness lasts forever. For many winter months. The scientists can't explain that. How did this dinosaur survive through such difficult times every year? We only know that they've actually done something extraordinary. Fossils of both young and adults. Pocky rhinoceros. It's found all over the Arctic Circle, from Alaska to Siberia. And it's not just herbivorous dinosaurs. We've got carnivores that share a living space. Why is it so? Why dinosaurs could appear in the Arctic? There's an explanation that comes out that the dinosaurs that lived in the Arctic, they all have relatively smaller sizes compared to other places. Some species seem to thrive. Take this chodo, for example. They're small carnivorous dinosaurs. It's known to live mostly in North America. There are many fossils of this type found in Alaska, significantly more than elsewhere. This shows that they don't just tolerate the Arctic well. It also grows in a way that it can't be anywhere. It's a wonderful adaptation, maybe in part because of their big eyes. Try giving it the ability to see at night, and it's certainly very useful for months in the dark. With that, the cold is not a bigger concern. In the white equinox, Arctic ring, much warmer than the average temperature we imagine. Of course, it can't reach a tropical climate, where most of the dinosaurs lived. Still cold enough to not have any amphibians or any cold-blooded animal, like a turtle or a snake, can live. Primates at this time have not yet appeared, and if so, I can't stand this temperature. It's a really cool, temperate environment, plus the adaptability that species possess that made the Arctic Circle not desolate. That's relatively bustling with life. More surprising in the next 20,000.005. Arctic Circle continues to trend warmer. At the beginning of the ocean, or the New Age, about 55 million 5 years ago, temperature rise slowly. Ecosystems in the world gradually learn how to adapt to survive anywhere. Tropical rainforest, the subtropics, also extend to the north, from the equator all the way to the Arctic Circle. Rainforests spread across the Arctic Circle, growing thanks to an abundance of CO2. The heat evaporates more water, creating giant rain clouds. To accelerate this development, the Earth has become a hot greenhouse, literally places at the extreme ring. Average temperature up to 16 to 21 degrees Celsius. But the greenhouse with such abundant plants, not quite a paradise. When the poles are fresher, it's synonymous with the equator. It's almost impossible to live with an average temperature of over 40 degrees Celsius. But there's nothing to worry about. We're always changing in terms of geology and climate. Warming trend since 100,000.005 ago. Soon no more. The Earth is in a state of ice. Once again, the ecosystems in front of the adaptation problem. When our world starts to cool down, evolution has driven the changes. It's even more amazing. One of the most important changes comes from this plant. Grass is a relatively simple plant, but there's a mechanism to protect yourself. Can't be underestimated. On grass leaves that contain tiny silica pellets, ready to wear out the teeth of any stupid creature that wants. Eat them. Grass also carries strong vitality. They can grow back even in the most difficult conditions. Not only that, grass seeds are dispersed by the wind. We don't rely on animals to transport us. The first grass that we discovered in the fossil is from the Cretaceous period, but they just really explode. In the late Cretaceous, it's getting cooler in the weather. Grass has choked the biomes of the world. They multiply quickly and began to form the first grasslands. Open ecosystem begins step change. This is also the decisive step of creation, to separate our ancestors from other species of herbivorous animals. Evolution of longer teeth to cope with loss. Worn by grass, they also develop more special abilities. Some species gather in large groups against the hunts. Some choose to develop speed to escape from predators. In Africa, our original homeland, it's not outside the cycle of change. Today, Africa is divided into large regions that nourish different biomes of organisms. The center of the 6 places gathers a thick tropical forest area. Central regions. These forests are vast grasslands and grasslands. The hot, dry desert is in the north, but the highly divergent regional nature of the biomes. Creatures in Africa. It's not always clear. The new environment that Africa has today, it's largely determined by how much rain actually falls. The different monsoon systems of Africa, deciding where the rain will fall and how much. Rainfall is not always predictable. Even at the time of 30 million before the whole continent was a patchwork blanket, with many different types of environments. So 30 million before climate. What's different about the African landscape? Why did those things change to create the Africa we know today? Africa 30,000.005 years ago. There are areas of forest interspersed with grasslands, has taken humanity further. Each zone is determined by its own climate, instead of the climate common to the whole region. So the ancestors, we can easily access it. Many different types of environments to extract resources, instead of the same large region. This is the world of primates. As Egyptopithecus, living in mangrove forests, and the inland forest that we now call Egypt, even though it's drier than the world's polar rainforests. But Africa's climate is diverse and humid, but not long after. Africa's climate and rainfall have changed strangely. This is not due to CO2. It's because of changes in the other 6 places, especially the 6 European countries. About 50.0005 ago, 6 places India VA collides with 6 places Asia Europe. Let's start for climate change. The landscape is in Africa. These 2 tectonic plates caused the shock for a long time before it's completely and stably merged. Volcanoes are also born from the fracture of the crust, geology when the VA tectonic plates collide. However, by the time the VA touched both India and Asia, they're all equally light, very difficult to bend or break. There's no plate long enough to go down. The VA impact formed the majestic Himalayan mountains. It's because of the Himalayas that volcanoes are born in this part of the world. VA touch is restrained. CO2 is pumped more into the atmosphere. It's what created the Asian monsoon. From determining rainfall and time, rain for a very large area of the planet, including Africa. Over time, the rainforests are shrinking, about where the monsoon provides enough rainfall. The meadow was expanded to form a vast steppe. Our primate ancestors, in the face of difficult decisions, or follow the decline of the forest, or adapted to survive in grasslands. It's this decision that's taken humanity further. To almost every continent 6. Invaded every land in the world. Imagine one day, the earth is so hot that the asphalt melts and bend all the railways. This is not the setting of a post-apocalyptic movie. It's the heat waves on the North Atlantic coast of North America. In 1911, high temperatures attacked coastal cities. In July, and it lasted for 11 days. It's the 6th century of temperature. For the first time in history, people noted the situation. Thousands of people sleep on the streets at night. Try to avoid the scorching heat. In that 6th century heat wave, 2,000 people died. Some people are even crazy by the terrible heat. Our world is not always easy to live in. And while humans are now everywhere, we still can't quite deal with the temperature. You might be surprised, but our planet is going through a phase, temperate climate, peace and stability over the last 2 to 5 million years. But that doesn't mean that we don't have to face with the change in temperature. In those millions of years, we're sometimes 4 degrees warmer. It's 8 degrees colder than average. Our ancestors have really adapted with the warming of the Earth, even in the most extreme conditions. Without air conditioning, that natural mechanism is really effective to this day. Even if there's a slight decline, the simplest way to adapt, it's about regulating body temperature. It simply means that we're moving somewhere to lower body temperature. It could be as simple as finding shade, air conditioning, fan, or jump into the water. In the long run, we need to move from the region's hot climate for complete comfort. It's not just that. We also have a lot of physiological adaptations to deal with unpleasant temperatures. Human skin has become less hairy. There are more sweat glands distributed throughout the body. Not only that, walking on 2 legs is also an advantage, not expected. Standing upright helps us have less skin area, have to be exposed to more direct sunlight, and more exposure to the wind from the sides. But even with these advantages, our bodies still have a lot of limitations. Remember, when you move a lot or high-intensity exercise, our bodies have warmed up considerably, and in most cases, it can't withstand temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius, so we're going to use different ways of adjusting the temperature, just mentioned, to control. But what's going to happen if we can't do this? For example, we can't find shade or water to cool. For example, the first thing will happen. It's a slowing down of the body. Muscles start to contract because of egg cramps, especially in the legs and stomach. We sweat constantly to try to cool down, until the state of dehydration, crumbling effect that cooling creates. With less water in the body, blood becomes harder to transport, blood pressure rises, and our hearts are racing to pump blood to other organs. My sanity is fading away. We fall into a delirium or we pass out, and of course the end result is death. It's an important issue that we need to face. When the temperature rises high, that's humans, warm-blooded animals. We can't turn off the heating. It already exists in the body. But not all relatives, our primates, are all like that. Small species like mouse lemurs have the ability to reduce. It even turns off the body's heating system. This means that throughout the day, the temperature inside their bodies, it's probably about 1837 degrees. Meanwhile, people, we consider our body temperature to be dangerously high is when it drops below 35 degrees Celsius. This ability to turn off the heating in the body is called topper, and many small primates can do that. They can slow down metabolism, use only the temperature of the environment to keep warm, instead of wasting energy to keep yourself warm. It's an extremely useful adaptation that humans don't have. So when the temperature goes up, we have to work very hard to deal with it. But of course, the Earth is not always hot. When the Earth cools down, the human environment is beginning to change. Our environment has become more isolated. It's demonstrated by stopping the heat from shrinking, and the meadow expanded raw. So first, we need to be able to move the longer distances. Once again, upright posture. It's an extremely useful feature adaptation. Walking onto feet significantly faster. It's also much less energy intensive compared to moving bifurcae. So we've conquered a lot of environments, living more differently. Our 4-legged relatives, most of the primates, not all humans live in trees, maintain the advantages of the ancestors left behind. While we choose to stretch out into the meadow, we may not have the best adaptation conditions, but it's always adapted in the smartest way. So the change in temperature seems to. It's never been hard for people, but it's important to note that in the process of warming up or cooling of the Earth for millions of years, even row 10,000,005. However, from year 2, not 13 to 2022, the warming of the Earth caused by human activity, has caused the temperature to rise by 0.2 degrees Celsius every 15. Let's try to figure out how many degrees that number is going to go up. If we don't act, material, humans have won the temperature change, terrible self-inflicted or not. To concentrations in the atmosphere, steady increase from year to year is the main cause. It's causing global warming. According to the results of the study, in the past 55, CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere have increased by about 20%. According to the IPCC's fourth report, medium temperature, global temperature has increased by 0.7 degrees Celsius compared to before year because of global warming, even though it's only increased by 0.7 degrees Celsius. That over the years, natural disasters are like storms, floods, droughts, unusually hot sun, forest fires have occurred in many parts of the world. It's very damaging to many countries, but we're the poor, they also have to suffer the most. That's not a warning. It's too obvious for humans or so. The Earth will change, especially in the period. Humans are having a huge impact on the climate. Like today, the future is predicted to be a period of intense volatility. It's not as peaceful as it was a few million years ago. What do you think will be the end of the world? Or more specifically, it's not the end for humans. No one wants a bad scenario to happen to Earth. As the opening line shows, the end of the world will slowly kill the next generation. To put people in a position where they can't resist. The fight for survival was completely unresolved, but throughout evolution, climate isn't the only thing that requires adaptation. It's more important than survival. Must be adaptable, self-fitting, their place in the food chain. Really nest. Our ancestors used to be extremely competitive, fierce, to go from being a prey to being a bounty hunter. Like today. That magical journey will be the theme for the next episode. Get ready to go on air. I invite you to pay attention. And now on behalf of the Vi Kwong team, hello and see you in the next video. I wish everyone a good day. Strange cries echoing through the silent night. They're amplified by limestone caves. Inside the cave, hyenas are sharing the spoils they've earned. 400,000 years ago, in the limestone caves in China, they found many valuable fossils that were preserved. They belonged to different animals, horse turtle rhino and also Homo erectus, a species that went extinct many years ago. I'm sure you remember. Not too long ago we had a video to talk about how Homo erectus was successful compared to other human beings living at the same time. They stand up straight, using smart tools with the brain. That's about the size of our brains today. The skeletons of Homo erectus. It's going to tell us an amazing story. It's the story of a fierce battle for survival throughout the length of history. And in the next 30 minutes, you will be transported to a world full of. It's a dangerous place where you only have two choices. Evolved adaptations to become a hunter, or let go, or sluggish laziness to become a predator. Welcome to Human History Episode 4, when the hunter becomes the prey. Back to the bones in the cave. There's a very strange thing that people can see. It's that they're not usually buried in the ground. It's scattered right across the cave floor. It's in these long bones and skull bones. There's a lot of strange traces, like a very strong impact, with the quadriceps broken into multiple conjunctions. Missing skull. It shows that somebody's trying to access the spinal cord. Bones and brain. Very rich in nutrition. At first they thought this was evidence for the consumption of meat, but then after considering, scientists have realized that the trace wasn't created by the tool, like axes or sharp stones. They're more like traces of teeth. That's right, you didn't hear it wrong. It's from some strong tooth, capable of chewing through the bones. And the one who caused it all. It's right in front of us. Pachycrocuta brevirostries. Or you can call them. It's an ancient giant short-faced hyena. They're the largest ancient hyena ever known. Estimated average weight 110,190 kilograms. 0.9 to 1 meter high and about 1.7 meters long. That's about the size of a lioness, and 3 times as large as today's hyenas. In their own time, they're fearsome predators. It's very high on the food chain. And don't be surprised when they can eat bones. By the descendants of the Pachycrocuta revirachus. Today it is also on the top. Species that carry the strongest bite force. Planet. Orphans giant short-faced often pull prey back to the cave. To enjoy, they'll first process the skull. To access brain oil nutrition. And then move on to the solid bone marrow. These bones are clear. Testimony to the incredible power and the aggression of the giant beasts. And it's not just in some areas. Across 6 continents of Europe, everything works like that. In most cases, nest, our ancestors can't beat the species. Aggressive hunting. Healthy. For a long time, we always have the ability to be prey. Relatively low in the food chain. So, how did our ancestors change that? Incredible journey from prey. It's time to be a hunter. What's special? More than 155 years ago, a boy named John Wayne, walking down the street in London, not far from the pier. It's really busy. There are countless ships every day. From the tropics of the Indian Company, dock. Normally, they're going to carry a variety of essential goods, have value. But today in the goods, there's something very special. They brought here wild animals, in which there's a huge adult tiger. Like many other passers-by, John curiously stood watching the strange animals that you've never seen before. When the tiger is unloaded and moved to a new habitat, they put him in an iron cage, but it doesn't seem comfortable at all. And then the tiger ran out of its cage, out on the busy street. In the midst of the chaos, he's chosen John as his target. And you grabbed him on the shoulder and dragged him away. It's easy to lose the sense of danger when we are always covered, wrapped in a safe environment, almost absolutely. We always think that I am the owner of this world. But don't forget that for nature, we are also just a part of the food chain. The roles are consistent, always divided. Divided by organisms in the ecosystem. On Earth, herbivorous animals, plants, carnivores and omnivores, eating grass-fed animals again. And at the top are the top species, where people have climbed for a long time. Maybe that's what makes us complacent. But the vestiges of early history, it shows our role completely. The opposite of what we think. John Wick was dragged for a long time by a big Bengal tiger, but somehow he's still very lucky. The owner of the animal, Charles Zambrick. They were discovered and rescued in person. Tattered zombies chase the neck of the beast, put it on your back and wrestle with it for a while. A kind passerby quickly brought Ben's car. Run up and hit the animal in the eye. Now a new animal will release the boy, but still not completely unconscious and keep getting up. In that moment, John Wick picked up the crowbar himself. Give the animal another blow to the head, with all his might. The tiger panicked and automatically returned to the kennel. However, the boy's father still sued. And the hero who saved lives, £300 for damage. Not everyone is as lucky as John Quaid. Other victims of tiger attacks recorded. They are often seriously injured or killed. Throughout history, tigers are considered dangerous creatures. For humans, from 1800 to 2009 in Southeast Asia, up to 400,000 people died from tiger attacks. And today, tigers in India and Bangladesh still make 50, up to 60 people die each year. Even a tiger like the Kampwa tigress. It was a horror in Nepal. By killing 100 people, before going to the northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, and when it got into India, it kept killing people. Raised the total number of dead under his claws, up to 430 to 436 people. Why am I showing you the danger of species? Tiger. The first is to warn that the beast really has great power, outside of our control. And even if we're at the top of the food chain on Earth, that doesn't make sense, is that we don't have to share that position with other species. I'll explain it better, let you know through the concept called nutrition level. The nutritional level of an organism is where the organism is in the food chain. That represents an ordered set. The creatures eat other creatures, and being eaten by other creatures. The number of trophic levels of an organism, calculated by the number of steps from the beginning of the food chain. From that creature, path along the chain can form a line, one dimension or one food tongue. Ecological community with diversity, biology is higher, will form complex nutritional pathways more than. So a higher level of nutrition means less stuff. They are more likely to eat you. At the first level, autotrophs are familiar faces. Not only plants, but also bacteria and algae. After the first level, we're up to the second level herbivores, predators at the third level, and it usually ends with predators, or top predators at level 4 or 5. 3 billion years ago. We don't have that many levels of nutrition. Life was much less complicated then. When autotrophs rule the world, many types are formed. Each layer calcium carbonate. They stack up as they try to grow towards the sunlight. There are no predators. These bacteria live a very peaceful life. It's their only survival challenge. It's just 10 hours of sunlight. But it didn't last forever, because eating other organisms creates more energy than if you synthesize substances from the environment yourself to create your own energy. Maybe you don't believe it, but we ourselves today still carry traces of the early heterotrophs. It's deep in the cell structure. All other plant animals and fungi with VI bacteria, when they're made out of complex cells, contain genetic material for a separate part. To a period of history when multicellular organisms start to appear, every cell responsible for some biological functions. This definitely creates conditions to form many organisms, bigger than survive more effectively, and especially being able to get energy from eating meat. Other creature, life just goes on. In Cambridge 500,000.005 years ago, life is exploding at an unprecedented rate. The species evolved to eat meat, but a lot of them. It's also about developing tools to avoid being eaten. We can easily find many species with shells, or develop eyes to see predators. With each new evolutionary step, the food chain of our early world become more complicated. Every creature finds the easiest way to survive. And our primate ancestors, it's no exception. 10 million 5 years after the death of the dinosaurs, in the dense canopy of the ancient rainforest, a primate looking for food. It weighs less than 200 grams, long face and very small eyes. The copula test is actually an ancestral primate. It uses its opposite toes to attach itself to the tree's branches. Although the ankle bone shows, they don't move very often. On this terrain, primates today use sight to locate the food. The couple test doesn't have that capability. Instead, it hunts primarily with its sense of smell. But even though so, it also had a nutrient level that wasn't too low. North America is now covered in dense rainforests, reaching all the way to the North Pole. Cool bearing period gives a group of plants a chance to evolve. Angiosperm plant. Today, many of the world's plants are native to. From the plants, the most secret seed, their incredible drift. It means that any animal that's capable of consumption, they will also succeed. Small eyes, poor vision of the couple test may not be particularly sophisticated in seeing the fruit in the distance, but its nose excels at that task. The detection of the smell of ripe fruit from a distance. Suitable feet give it the skills it needs to climb the tree for food. Eating fruit creates a lot of energy. It also scatters the seeds further. A mutually beneficial relationship. The evolution of angiosperms, or specifically fruits. It means a lot to the nest. Our primate fairy. It provides a new and abundant source of food, with a lot of sugar and energy. While all the animals, It's very difficult to do. Find the right power supply. The primates are even more difficult. We have higher energy needs because of the brain. Normally, there are two components to a primate's diet: our ancestors, including insects and plants. But every source has some disadvantages. In plant mode, leaves carry many complex molecules like celery loser. It takes time to ferment in the stomach to digest. Small primates can't eat enough leaves or enough time for the fermentation process to see them as the main nutritional component. So insects are the second choice. As an efficient solution to replenish energy, insects are very well suited to small primates, but with larger species, I mean anything larger than a pound, must be extremely difficult. Get the necessary amount of insects. Did you notice that? Insect-eating primates are usually very small, and conversely, large species choose to eat leaves. And then when the fruit is added to the menu, everything is solved. Small primates can eat fruit because they're easy to digest. In the right season of the year, the fruit is extremely plentiful and plentiful. Help large primates. They also get the necessary amount. In the search for resources, eating more and more stressed, some species of primates has moved to consume more of the flower bile, even tree sap. But then the warm period passed as the climate changed. The diet of the whole ecosystem also changed again, according to Row 10.000005. After the time of the children, Capulet's search for fruit in the forest, our ancestors have changed a lot. Beyond the human form, including all other human species, recorded remarkable evolution in brain size. It's becoming increasingly difficult to provide enough energy. More flowers of plants or insects. They were no longer eligible to meat. They're moving to new food sources, more effective than meat. But no teeth or sharp claws. How can they get meat? This stone tool, it's what's found in Tanzania, where the original ancestors lived, even though it looks simple, rudimentary. But it's extremely useful, with sharp edges to cut meat into pieces. Not only that, it also shows tremendous progress in the ability to use the tool, but it seems like a tool, food processing aid, similar to how today's monkeys use stones to break the fruit of the hard crust. They're not like hunting tools. This shows that it's very likely we know how to cook meat before learning how to hunt, and very likely our ancestors had access to nutrition from flesh and bones by picking up trophies from predators. It's different from getting meat from predators. It is often difficult to meet the needs because hunters rarely do. He left too much of his booty behind. But the bones are another story. Very few animals in nature are capable of breaking or bite the bone to reach the marrow like hyenas. The bones are almost all left behind after the predators are full, and it's easily accessible. But is it that simple? Today hyenas are limited to Africa, so we don't see them or know much about them. But in the past, this animal used to live everywhere in the world. Their bones are also a source of food, and so our ancestors. They also have to compete if you want to get. In most cases, hyenas are the winners, but not everything. In southern Spain, we can find the sign of one of the conflicts this violent prehistoric era. Year 2001, archaeologists discovered part of the mammoth skeleton. The scientific analysis shows that he died of natural causes. Its teeth are so worn that they can't be eaten. But while the animal's death is nothing dramatic, the war for his body is so intense. Around the mammoth fossil carcass, there are traces of cannibals, including some broken tool pieces, and the hyena's characteristic white feces, and the leg is missing from the fossil. It shows us our ancestors was the winner. The absence of a vacuum at the scene proves that it was carried elsewhere by our ancestors. Because the legs have a lot of meat and bone marrow, it's easily separated from the body with tools. We've been winning since we were first, without going to war, with a relatively high probability of 7 defeats. This is good. However, It doesn't always go so well. 27,000.005 before a small predator is stalking in the treeless forest, in a place we know as England today. Its big round eyes, taking advantage of weak natural light, to watch the moths sucking the sap of trees. The moths don't know they're being hunted. This makes it easy for hunters to get close enough, then deliver the final attack. Microcoreus enjoy the booty. Yours in a delicious way, but that's just the beginning of a longer story behind Microcoreus itself. They are also the prey of someone hiding in the dark. Its life, as fragile as the moths. The next part of the story is told by bones of Microchoras. Small molars were found, with corrosive traces of acid. They're in the stomach of a predator. For a relatively long time, there are no signs of scratches or damage on the teeth. It shows that it's been swallowed whole, and all the other evidence all lead to a class of owl predators. Owls are not a scary species for current humans, but in ancient times, maybe it used to scare the little primates. Many parts, other primate bones in Europe and America have the same traces, corroded by acid. They may have been swallowed and vomited out, because owls can't fully digest. In a way, maybe we should thank the owls, because it's helping humans perfect the fossil record more fully. To this day, the other birds are still hunting, finding and eating primates. This is the happy eagle, a bird of prey, the largest ever found in the Americas. It's one of the world's largest eagles. It still exists. The habitat of this species is in forests, tropical, low and high rainforest. The back of the haughty eagle is black. The bottom is white or black. Their heads are pale gray with plugs of hair. The top of the head looks like a crown. The back of the tail is black and gray. It's a happy eagle predator. They hunt most of the animals, from small to medium size. It's mainly composed of sloth monkeys, primates in general, in addition to hunting squirrel hedgehogs, marsupials that feed on ants and even raccoons. In fact, more than 50% of the diet. Their favorite is a primate. Happy eagle, capable of hunting the animals. That's equivalent to your body weight. But it's very difficult to carry a prey. Too heavy on the nest, which means it's heavier than a bird. Eating meat, it makes you less likely to be a victim of them. Increasing the size is the measure. It's extremely effective against birds of prey. But primates all over the world today, and throughout history, there are species that remain small. Why is it so? Small thing could help primates find enough food to survive. At even the apes. Our ancestors were also relatively small. For a long time, the first hominids, it's as big as we are today, just appeared about 5 million years ago with Australopithecus species. More important, it's bigger than an eagle, doesn't help you escape from other predators. Even if it's big enough not to get a bird. Predatory chase, there are always other animals waiting to attack you. You can see that when dog heads in Africa, it's much bigger than in South America. They weigh up to 40 pounds, but it's still on the list. Favorite food. My newspaper operates at night and likes to attack baboons in their sleep. The effectiveness of attacks is so high, almost disables all of the warning measures typical of baboons. The newspaper has proven it's willing to overcome any obstacle to find food, especially primates. It's only been around for 6 million years, but that's enough to let the future leopard chase our ancestors. A long time. The first African history. It's a land full of dangers. Predators often also share territory with each other. You don't just face one. It's multiple enemies in the same area at the same time. In the water, crocodiles are always a potential danger. Can't be underestimated. Although today we can be close to the species. Some people can keep them as pets. Some people are close to them through the shoes, belt or leather wallet brand. But for our ancient ancestors, it's not a good idea to approach crocodiles. It's the exact opposite. They're trying to get as far away from the crocodiles as possible. A typical scary predator is the crocodile crocodilus, Tobias nasson, an extinct species of crocodile. This species used to inhabit the Kenyan Turkana Basin. It is closely related to Crocodilus entropophagus, living at the same time in Tanzania. This is the largest crocodile that's ever lived on Earth. They lived 24 million years ago at a length of more than 8.2 meters, longer than 2 meters than the Nin River crocodile. Between the fossil evidence found, this crocodile used to hunt its ancestors, our past in time, history. It's really easy to understand. Because of the prehistoric environment, it's very consistent with the time they were in. Our ancient ancestors, we need to go to the river to drink water. By that, there's no reason they can't be prey. The fat of this giant reptile. Outside the meadow, Pachacracuta is a threat, as we said at the beginning. But there are other threats as well. If you see grizzly bears and bears, poles are scary animals you wouldn't be able to imagine. What did our ancestors have to face? When you encounter these giant short-faced bears, this bear has lived for 8 million years, to 11,000 years ago. If they stand on their back to feet, they're 7 feet tall and 1.8 meters when standing on all 4 legs. Weight up to 1.2 t. This is one of the land mammals, the largest that ever existed on Earth. Like the polar bear, their food is only meat, meat and meat. Short-faced bears aren't just big. They can run at 50 to 70 kilometers per hour. And hunting other fast animals, like a prairie horse, antelope, beyond stimulation and invincible power. In the early history, even bison, adults are also their prey. Let's not talk about ancestors. In our own small history, that's just the examples. Increase in size. Obviously, they can't protect us from animals, eat mate. So how did our ancestors continue to exist, development, and climb the highest ladder in the food chain? Clues for this can be found in the behavior of modern primates. Maybe they use different kinds of environments at different times. You can understand simply that if the great, giant eagle's active in the forest during the day, then will move out to the prairie, looking for food, and unfortunately was discovered. The acacia bushes with many thorns, they can also provide defense. It's very effective. And finally, after countless 5 dodges, a miracle is finally coming. The weapon that will help us officially get to the top, the food chain, has emerged. That joy is nothing but fire. Ability to use fire. It has forever changed the fate of mankind, as well as our place in the food chain. In the wild, the fire helps us cook, turn humans into species, make efficient use of energy from food, no longer rely on the collector. We've been able to absorb some of the energy from cooked meat. The fire also helped our ancestors make tools. Weapons are more effective, but we still don't know the time humans discovered fire, as well as the transformation of the desolate power. It's a daily tool. We can only imagine how that our ancestors found fire. People initially hypothesized human ancestors were scavengers, food around the fire. They know the benefits of fire. When they meet fire on the way, they'll watch or follow the path of the fire. After encountering a natural fire, the fish, this wild body may have been waiting for the fire to die out. Then we went to see what the natural chef had cooked for them. Just think about it. Forest fires in nature are relatively common, and it's no surprise that the nest, our fairies, wander after every fire to look for animals that have been roasted. The process of discovering fire, it certainly doesn't happen overnight. The process of collecting food after the fire, more likely, people, history has sought to prolong the fire that has been going on. What that means is, these humanoid creatures don't just know about fire. They're starting to learn how to use fire profitably. For example, using a stick to start a fire. Not all prehistoric people. It can also take advantage of the heat that radiates from the roots, trees after the forest fire. Use them as a natural baking system. Maybe there's no need to talk too much about hunting tools. The shot was later developed because it's simply something we can improve on. The ability to destroy prey, which has been so superior since the fire. We now rule the planet. Establish yourself large areas of territory and drive out all the wild intruders, not desirable. Our impact is changing the herbivore body. It's also affecting other predators. Our level of power. Show that we've reached a different level of nutrition, completely higher than the beginning. No more effort climbing higher in the food chain. Now people are the ones who decide. Modification of the food chain. You just look at the way people have pushed a lot, animal species, to the brink of extinction. It's going to be clear how much power we have. But it seems that power is being used in the wrong way. I hope that in the future, people will use the power they have to get along with nature. Instead of indiscriminately changing nature, there is such enduring vitality in all living things, newly maintained. Eating and being eaten has been protracted, over and over again like that. The fight between the hunter and the prey, it's part of the push, perfecting the evolution of species. When you reach the peak of power, not stumbling upon the competition for survival, whether we're still evolving or not. Personally, I think we'll continue to evolve. But the motivation for that evolution, it doesn't come from looking for food. It comes from the environment that we create. Progress, human evolution is also evident in the imprints, culture on the human body. Human parts are more and more zoo, smaller and neater direction, with the help of science and technology in the heavy work. While species, primates have the closest relatives to humans, the chimpanzees. They still have big and strong teeth to break hard objects. Human beings, it belongs to nature in many different ways, even if there is more development or progress. We can be sure of one thing: evolution will never stop. In the final episode of this series, we will see the final test, that this planet is for our ancestors. It's the last step up the ladder of power that people have today. Thank you very much for your interest in following. On behalf of the Viet Quan team, hi and see you in the next video. I wish everyone a good day. Warm light shines through the thick forest canopy to create a dazzling scene. Beneath the tree's branches, the little lizard is dreamily dozing off. In the yellow sun, its scales glowed and its chest fluttered. Slow breathing. Everything was peaceful until something's coming. Something big that moves the trees around. The little lizards wake up, take off. Before this hairy giant hand, he grabbed the tree he had just fallen asleep on. That arm belongs to a 3-meter-tall creature that weighs more than 300 kilos. It's called Gigantopithecus. That's twice as big, compared to an adult gorilla today. Gigantopithecus. I don't care about the presence of cows. Little Kier, close up. It's all about finding yourself a good meal. With enormous mass, the need to eat almost constantly, food is getting harder to find in the world. It always changes every day. Gigantopithecus is struggling to survive. It's the same species that's depleted the food supply area and must move quickly, looking for something to satisfy hunger. Over a period of time, the density of the trees began to diminish. Make room for the open land in front of you. Giant animal, stop at the edge of the forest and observe the unfamiliar scene. There's nothing for it. With a golden roar, it's going back to trying to survive in the forest. It's getting smaller and smaller. You might think that this monster lived millions of years ago, but many studies have shown they existed until 100,000 years ago, whereas the hominins lived in China over 1 million years. It means that our ancestors, I used to breathe the same air and walk the same path as Gigantopithecus. And now they're extinct. And we don't. But the extinction of Gigantopithecus, it's not that special at all. Long before that happened, the genealogy of monkeys, it's actually perished beyond belief. If looking back 1020.0005 ago, we'll see a very different world. In the Middle Neolithic of the Near Neolithic, the apes reached a peak in numbers, area of distribution, and species diversity. But in the modern world, the monkeys are only their own shadow. Previously, most of the monkey family, they're all inexplicably extinct. What caused this disaster? Why are our countless relatives? It dies in the oblivion of time. What's the driving force behind the rise of the hominin lineage? Conquer the planet completely. The last episode of human history. Why are we not extinct? A day normal cold car, 1709-8. The mysterious box has just arrived from the museum. You follow the sticker outside. It's traveled thousands of kilometers from the remote coast of Australia. All the scholars of the museum, they are all watching. They expected the package to contain a treasure worthy of the most famous museum in the world. But the truth is completely different than expected. There is no treasure. What they saw was a strange creature. It doesn't seem to come from Earth. An organism that possesses the basic characteristics of mammals, with fine brown fur and a beaver-like, flattened tail. But it has a beak and webbed legs like a duck. Creature. It's known to us today as one-leashed platypus. Key to the study of evolution. Platypuses are not like ornithopods. It lays eggs. Come from an ancient lineage, existing row 10.0005 ago, when dinosaurs still ruled the earth. These days, ducks only live in freshwater rivers and streams, eastern Australia and Tasmania. But 65,000.005 ago, their ancestors, it's been recorded throughout South America. This in part shows that it's highly likely that they have many other relatives, used to be distributed over most of the super 6 guanas. But over time, there's only platypuses, and for species of them, other hedgehog fur, are the last egg-laying mammals that survive. It's even more surprising when you consider the species. The platypus is the only surviving representative. So the platypus example shows us what? The answer has to do with the number of species. Whether a species is ecologically successful, no matter where you go, one day they're also facing extinction. It suffers from a serious decline in diversity. Even worse is to disappear completely. This planet is home to millions of life forms. This includes more than 435,000 known plant species, 150,000 species of mushrooms, and a comma of 2 million described animals. However, scientists estimate that 99.9% of life has ever existed. The Earth is extinct. Extinction occurs when a species, or a larger group of species that no longer exists. This effect comes from the birth rate of the species, cannot be greater than or equal to the death rate over time. Based on the fossil record, we know these species, they usually don't fight with changes in the environment or their evolution. Slower than predators and competitors. But also from the fossil record, that we can find these incredible creatures. Surprise in the past. The discovery of a new species. It's the dream of every old house. Biology. But sometimes the reality is even more amazing. 2071. A group of researchers has found traces of fossils of the species Antidiluvius turcae. Lived around the time of the Middle Ages. Fossil of the Antidiluvius dynasty. A whole new genus of great apes. Excavated in the old site. Biology of Coracilla in Anatolia, central Turkey. If you don't know, the genus is a group of related species. They have common characteristics, but the discovery of a new kai. They won't give you any special information about species in that genus. For example, when you discover the fossil of a tiger, you can't imagine anything about a lion, jaguars, or leopards of peace. This discovery led to an investigation. Lasts for 16 years. By the end of 2023, now, scientists have published an amazing result. Large genus Antidiluvius. It's a branch of the evolutionary tree that created chimpanzees, gorillas, and humans. Outside of this species, we've got a lot of other species with it. But it can't be determined yet. Anadolu Turkish roots. existed about 8 to 7 million years ago. It's a representation of a branch of the great ape family trying to create a new path to deal with the changing world. Perhaps our descendants have survived the migration, immigrate to Africa to give birth to later great apes, and finally become us. The period of time that Anadolu Vuster said existed. It is also about time witnessed the most intense fluctuations of the great primate family in general, and of the apes in particular, over 23.0005 ago. So Trung Tan, it started as a time of great change. Average temperature recorded, it's 5 degrees warmer than it is now. Due to high temperature lead to melting ice, so sea level rise, that many areas of coastal cities, it's completely flooded today. The dense ocean extends across both the northern and southern hemispheres. Through a modern lens, we see the Middle East as a time of transition to show that nature has decided that it's time to redecorate the landscape for the planet. Many ancient forms of life have ended, leaving a tremendous opportunity. It's for newer forms of life, more modern species of animals and plants. Into the tree, a new family of primates has appeared, separated from their monkey-like ancestors, even though their lineage, it started in the early days of the Middle Ages, with an organism called proconsul, but it was in the middle of the era. They're actually completely separate. About 13,000.005 years ago, Earth, it's home to some amazing new species of monkeys, with much more flexible shoulders. The first monkeys, moving through the branches of trees in Europe and Asia. Scientists have estimated that there's more than 100 great apes that have gone through that. The Middle Ages and most of their diversity originated in the middle of the era, but it's how this period saw an increase, mutations of monkeys in general, and apes in particular. The answer is probably nothing too strange if you've seen all the previous episodes of the series. This series is simply climate. But here's the thing, we're making statements. The influence of climate express through a more complex biological phenomenon. It's called evolutionary radiation. Evolutionary radiation, or evolutionary radiation, is the diversity of common ancestral species into some lineage to adapt to the new ecospatial environment. And we also have the concept of adaptive radiation, a kind of radiation that evolves to fill ecological niches. Adaptive radiation occurs when changes in the environment. It opens up new opportunities for life, adaptation, and development. As Darwin once hypothesized, when you look at the diversity of sparrows on Earth, change in the environment to stimulate sparrow diversification, species from a common ancestor be adapted to new conditions. A period of forest cover most of the Earth's surface, like the beginning and middle of the Middle Ages. It's extremely suitable for monkeys to grow and reproduce. But these forests are not the same thing. Each region has a different type of environment. So radiation evolution happens. As the warm period goes through, the climate starts to cool. Some kind of new habitat is also emerging. Provide many new ecological niches for organisms to evolve. Fill it up. New types of environments pose their own challenges to motivate the monkeys to develop a coping mind. We can talk about Dryopithecus and Pleopithecus, adapted to living in forests, new temperate formation in Western Europe, some others like Kenyatesis, then evolved to thrive in mixed forests in Africa, the Middle East, and the northern regions of the Indian subcontinent. Meanwhile, Oreotesis lives in swampy forests. In ancient Italy, we can think of this period as an ecological experiment. With the monkeys' nest, our first venture into the territories, new adaptations to different lifestyles. Through the next generations, the development is getting better and better. For example, species that live in mixed forest grasslands, it will surely evolve to get some new food and lose their pure living characteristics of life on the tree. Two species of monkeys that live in swampy forest environments also developed characteristics that allow them to exploit aquatic resources, abundant. In the present time, we still see many species of monkeys use hard rock to break snails for food. Together, the explosion of monkeys, it comes from the diversity of the environment. It's not hard to understand when we call it a period. Eyes of the monkey planet. But how come so many species of monkeys? They can exist together again. That is, in the same environment. Different species of monkeys. How to maintain peace without competing for food. To answer this question, you have to understand a concept called the appropriate partition. Let's look at the screen together, where the African savanna is lush. Here we see many animals. Eating grass is existing together. It's all relatively peaceful. There's no conflict in the search for food. Zebras graze on grass and hard leaves at medium altitude, while the antelope feeds on young shoots and softer leaves. At high altitudes, no species can reach. Giraffe, with a long neck that monopolizes this food source. The separation of diet and height looking for food. That's the old example. It's the best way to divide different species, to use resources in the same environment. In the context of the Middle Ages, the same story goes for apes. With the discovery of raw antediluvians, the excavations in Turkey discovered a total of at least be ages different, and that leads us to an interesting conclusion. The monkeys with the boom. It's possible to live together in the same environment. Antediluvians lives in Turkey, common with Gryphophytis and Ramaphytesis. Each species with distinct characteristics. We found a way to grow without having to compete for food. Based on the changing environment, antediluvians may have spent a lot of time move more below ground, looking for low shrubs and tubers. But Gryphopithecus is completely different. The structure of their teeth and bones, it shows they have a life where the trees are low, eat different kinds of fruits and berries, or they also sometimes eat small vertebrates. With insects, the other side Ramapithecus. You can also create your own place. Stand alone in the ecosystem. When you own height, the search for food is superior to all. You can imagine, they're like modern orangutans. They make the most of their fruits and leaves. It can only be found on high. The species just mentioned, the Middle Ages in Turkey, it gives a perfect picture of adaptability and the diversity of apes in general. Each species is in its own world, demonstrate the ability to recover, and incredible versatility, according to the change of landscape, as said. So it's not just a monkey planet. In terms of quantity, it's also a time of extraordinary evolutionary experimentation. When compared to the present time, we'll notice a huge difference right away. The climate used to be what allowed life to explode. It's changed again now. The forest disappeared in many places, and descendants of antediluvians. He also began to leave his homeland, go to Africa. They're simply chasing the forest, receding towards the equator. But in this world, it's not just existing species trying to survive. That even completely new species are about to emerge. You have to do the same. And it's amazing. New species that show remarkable adaptations. More than anything, even in a grassland environment, increasingly popular. Their anatomy, especially their straight gait, allow them to overcome the challenges of the landscape. More open and diverse. Disappearance. With the disappearance of species in ancient times, that marked an amazing turning point in the story of evolution. In the years 130, Hong Kong is a bustling city, a port city full of shops, the vibrant market. Every afternoon, 1900 BA 5 to men walk into antique pharmacy. Old small transmission. One of them is local. The rest are from the West. Foreign visitors can't help but admire when you see these dried herbs or wine soaked with animals inside the shop. But he's clearly looking for something. This is Ralph von Quenischwar, who spent 5 years working in East Asia. I am currently in Hong Kong to find the supposed panacea. But Ralph's interest in this item, it has nothing to do with healing. Friend. His local chat with the salesman, and then the shopkeeper disappears into the counter. He came back a few seconds later, bring a tray with all kinds of small items. Comes in a variety of colors from pearly white to light yellow. The shopkeepers call them dragon teeth. But Ralph didn't hear that name very well, because he was attracted to the specimen, especially large in the declaration. If you don't know, then dragon teeth here use the address of the teeth of mammals, has fossilized. During his time in Asia, Ralph kept collecting 10 such items, in the hope of furthering his research. about the evolution process. A small pharmacy just helped him. I've discovered something very important. Jiang specimen. You look at them. It's a species that's never been discovered before. It's been described as a giant primate, larger than any species that has ever existed in history. That's Gigantopithecus, who appears at the top of the video. Our knowledge of this giant ape, it's limited to some samples, as Ralph found it. But it's the samples that solve it. It's been helpful for paleontologists. Estimated raw and incredible size. It's twice the size of a giant gorilla. Now Gigantopithecus highlights the diversity. Used to be a trait of monkeys or medium-frequency great apes. Not only that, it also serves as a profound reminder that even the most powerful species, the largest, can also become extinct. But how does that extinction work? It's a slow decline, or the result of sudden catastrophic events. Can't predict. In the case of Gigantopithecus, the answer is a slow decline, and for the same reasons. Species of apes of the Miocene. He ended his journey about 5 years ago, up to 10.005 ago. To understand the extent of the loss, actually in the monkey lineage, we've got to turn our attention back to the Middle Ages, especially the middle stage, and at the end of a tumultuous era. Let's look at the fossils of these organisms. This little sea, their shells, it's found in sedimentary cores, extracted from the bottom of the ocean, provide a detailed record of the temperature and the chemistry of that period. Studies show that the Middle Ages is characterized by a significantly elevated global temperature, marks a period of desirable warmth. It's called the optimal climate period, the Middle Ages, but it didn't last. Chemical composition from fossils to reveal information about the global cooling trend. Directly after the optimal climate period, the temperature has dropped by 510 degrees Celsius. Scientists still don't know the exact cause. What's causing this private transformation? But it seems that changes in the word Earth school, the expansion of the polar ice sheets, and changes in the ocean cycle has played an important role. We can be sure that, at any time, Earth's temperature changes at such a large rate, species are at risk of extinction. The time between central period brings colder and drier conditions, cause rainfall to decline. It is also accompanied by a decrease in air humidity. Entire ecosystems based on forests in danger of disappearing. The planet is sending to the Mesozoic apes an ultimatum: adapt or die. Reconstruction of the ancient environment. It shows us the presence of animals, like the antelope rhino. That means that during this time, landscape changed from jungle to grassland savanne. The seasonal climate is also distinct. What kind of monkeys usually live on leaves and fresh fruit? They can't survive in such an environment because the fruit will become scarce in the dry season. Some monkeys continue to cling to the forests, shrinking to survive. Drier landscape by year. But there are other species of apes as well. Risk out of the woods to explore the new environment that's waiting. One of the fairies. This wind has become a hominid. The first people appeared 57 million years ago. They're not just survivors after a changing world, but also the house's revolution in adapting to the new environment. It's ours. You might think that species go extinct because they don't change. However, for many species of monkeys, transition to an open environment, it's impossible. In these meadows, are forced to adapt to drier habitats. It is no different than the judgment with species that have lived on trees for millions of years. The more species that have an advantage over trees, they're even more unfavorable on the ground. Aranopithecus and Gracecopithecus, two species of European great apes, went extinct about 8 to 10 million 5 years ago. Insect, at a time of severe environmental change, in 6 places. They're extinct. It's not just a consequence of changing the landscape. It also reflects they not being able to adapt quickly enough to the world. In Asia, the apes of the Miocene has survived for another few million years with. But after all, they are also extinct when environmental change is destroying God. Survival model. Extinct. It's happened over and over again throughout the history of life. It can still be observed at the present time, since the intense competition between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals over 40,000 years ago. Until the modern-day competition between squirrels, gray and red squirrel, the principle remains unchanged. Species are better adapted to current conditions, superior to the opponent who always wins. That reminder is meant to be a survival warning. It doesn't have to depend on you being the strongest or the smartest. It's knowing how to change the most. Let's look at the Neanderthals again. The kind of people we used to think. They're less intelligent than Homo sapiens, and that's probably why they went extinct. But after a lot of research, it's highly likely that they will become extinct. It's because of other factors, like a slow reproduction rate, high energy demand, and less population. Homo sapiens with faster fertility, lower energy demand, and larger populations are linked together, was able to overcome and take their own dominant position. Although climate change can be viewed as the main cause, but it's also possible that they survived a small fraction. If you didn't have Homo sapiens, our defeat in the evolutionary arms race, you can understand that that's the nature of exclusion. Competition, a phenomenon recorded. It's relatively clear in the natural world. Two species competing for the same resources. They can't coexist for a long time. They can share a temporary common environment, but eventually a species will inevitably disappear. The same principle applies in the forests, where the monkeys live. Competitive exclusion puts species in need of food. Depends on fruit under tremendous pressure. War is inevitable, until the final winner is found. Gigantopithecus. He was one of the victims of the same war. But it's a war that's going on forever. About 200,000 years ago, our ancestors succeeded. Through millions of years. Exclude competition. Before 7. Failure due to excessive specialization in food. Ancient environmental data and microanalyses. Dental show they're particularly picky eaters, similar to pandas. Today, when turning, climate change is causing bamboo forests to spread, shrinking back in size, make their available food sources disappear. Even to early 2024. A study published in the Journal of about 295,000 years ago, many individuals of Gigantopithecus to go through chronic stress because I can't find food. There's a lot of apes in the Middle Ages. They're also extinct for that reason. Now there are only 7. Non-human great apes still exist. But that means that they succeeded, just like us. Competition to survive is never easy. Before entering a life-or-death battle with Netidus, we've also been competing with our other relatives. A flow that extends through 5 million, 10 million, then 15 million 5 ago. We've seen many times their ancestors succeed, while other species are destroyed. It's hard to imagine exactly. It's how we survived. What do you think if I told you? Inside each of us, they all carry a little bit of genes. Yes, it's hard to believe, but it's true. Some of which may carry many characteristics from ancient humans. In the past, others were less. It's up to you to start from the beginning. In a different way, you can also say that Homo sapiens are the last living species, and how we've survived through time. So many other species have gone extinct. It's always a big secret. As the mid-Miocene forests began to shrink, so many species of monkeys went extinct. It also creates a new opportunity for other evolutionary branches. That branch is the branch in the right tree of our system. The Middle Ages, late marked by the development of species. Apes on the meadow, their evolutionary characteristics bring a distinct advantage compared to monkeys. The other center, the most important thing is to walk on 2 feet. About 6 to 7 million years ago, species like Sahelanthropus the Chandisis, it's very different from other apes of the time. They live in a wide range of environments from savannas to the flooded forests to the open grasslands, finding them in the VI range, diverse living environment. It shows that, even our earliest hominid ancestors, it can also adapt better than our contemporaries, just because they can walk on 2 legs. This particular ability is still not very clear. It takes time to perfect, but in the future, it's definitely going to play a huge role in moving forward. Chemical. Most of them, including us, will walk completely on 2 feet, release to front limbs, and develop dexterity. This allows them to build complex tools. And then 2 million years ago, the world has entered the age of Homo habilis and Homo erectus, the movement of people moving farther. Food is more efficient than any other. Which residents in the past, the resources, they are almost fully utilized for their existence and development of the future human race, while Gigantopithecus was knocked out because of their highly specialized diet. Then Homo sapiens completely overcomes that. Innovative techniques to get the resources may be out of reach, such as hunting weapons, has helped us take down large prey. The different human species, expansion and distribution across newly formed environments without any difficulty. The story of the extinction of the apes, so Trung Tan, play an important part in the journey forward. Our chemistry, despite the dramatic decline in numbers, with the few species left, we still maintain the constant presence of our ancestors across 10 million 5 passes that's left over from gorillas to orangutans. There was also a miraculous journey of survival. It's similar to our ancestors, and I know it won't be long. The next round of purges happened, and we're faced with the battle of birth. Continue to maintain the species. So we've gone through 5 episodes about the history of human evolution, from surviving the great cataclysm of genocide to adapt through the geologic ages. And we've seen a dramatic decline in the number of species, as in today. You think that, is man a great achievement that nature has created? Do we really understand the origin? Yours or not? Thank you very much for your interest. Follow. We will meet again in the series. Discover more quality,